Hello everyone. Today I'm going to walk you through Harness's new feature for pipeline concurrency management. As you know, every Harness account has an inbuilt limit for how many pipelines can be run concurrently, that is, at the same time. By default, this limit is 1000 pipelines. Now, it often happens that there are certain projects that need to execute earlier than the others, such as critical security patches. At other times, there are some projects such as automated builds that eat up all of the available concurrency bandwidth, leaving no space for more important projects to build or deploy. This feature helps you solve that problem, and the way that it does this is to create two buckets of concurrency limits in your Harness account. We call them the high priority bucket and the low priority bucket. As you know, the default limit is 1000. So you could imagine, for example, that you would dedicate a concurrency limit of 200 for high priority projects and an 800, let's say, for low priority projects. What this means is that any pipelines in a high priority project will not only take up the 200 slots available to it, but can overflow into the lower priority if there is space available and if the high priority space is full. On the other hand, low priority projects are limited to their space, so you'll never see those projects taking up more than 800 slots in this example. Let me show you where this would be configured from in the UI. So in your Harness account, you can go to the account settings, and in them you go to the default settings and look at the pipeline section right at the bottom. If you have the right feature flags enabled, you can refer to documentation for that. You have a new section called concurrency management, and as you can see that the concurrent active executions is set by default to 1000. You can reduce this, but cannot increase it beyond 1000 today. And what you can do is to select either a list of high priority projects or a list of low priority projects and assign them a priority. So the default for the priority is high here, so let's set it to high, and then I can say that 200 pipeline executions are reserved for the high priority projects, and then I can go ahead and select which projects out of my list I would want to be available to the high priority project. So these are three projects. Any pipelines in these projects now will be run in the high priority concurrency bucket. I can set that, and that's the way I do it. I could also change my selected project list to the low priority. I'll come back to this use case in just a moment. And I could say, let's say, only about a priority, a concurrency limit of 100 for the low priority projects, and then I remove these, and let's say I add a build project such as this one, and I set that. So now any pipeline in that project will take up a maximum of 100 slots and can't go beyond that. So what are the use cases these come useful in? Let's walk through that. So let's say that one important use case is when you have high priority deployments that need to go to production quickly. So you'd create a high priority project list the way I just explained it, with a limit of say 200. Right? So all the critical deployments come in this bucket, and if there is 200 deployments already running at a high priority and there is space available in the low priority, it overflows and could potentially take up all the available spaces. On the other hand, the projects that are in all the remaining projects in the other list can never take that dedicated 200 concurrency limit space, and so this space on the left is always available for all critical deployments. The other use case is frequently run or routine builds, such as a build that is triggered every time a commit happens in your build in your repo. So you would say, for example, create a concurrency limit bucket of 100 for that section and list the build projects here. Right? That leaves a space of 900 for all the others. And anytime the routine builds number goes up to more than 100, they go into a waiting state. They never take up more than the space allotted to them. On the other hand, if there is less of the builds going on and any other project requires this extra space, the overflow could happen and it could actually take up those spaces. So this is the way that you could manage both your critical builds or else your routine builds that are bulky but not high priority in using the concurrency limits in harness. Thank you.